What's going on, everyone? It's RZ over here at Bukugames, and I'm here with yet another devlog for Cursed Kingdom. As you guys can tell, it's been a while since we've posted one of these, but we've been hard at work on the new system that we've implemented into Cursed Kingdom. It's not complete yet, and there's a lot more that has to be done, but we wanted to show you the framework that we have and kind of get opinions, as well as just show off what we have in store for you guys, and that is the duel system. I've mentioned it in passing in the previous devlogs, but the duel system is one of the main ways that you will be interacting with your opponents throughout the game. Now, it's a bit hard to explain, but as I stated, it is a work in progress, so anything you see here is subject to change, but we're open to opinions and feedback. So without further ado, let's get right into me showing you guys the duel system and what it's all about. Let's get over to Unity. Alright guys, so we're over here in the game, and one of the ways that you're going to be interacting with opponents is through the duel system. Now, it is very complex at a first glance, but it's pretty easy once you get the hang of it. So, when you are getting close to an opponent, say I'm the warrior here and I use a 7 card and I start running across the board, before I get to resolve my space effect, I'll have an opportunity to duel with an opponent within 3 spaces of me. In this case, we have the thief character that is close to us, so let me accept the duel and you'll see what happens. So as you can see, we have gone and transitioned to what is known as the battlefield area, where our opponents will square off with one another. As you can tell, I'm the warrior here, and we have a nice little UI telling us what we can and cannot do here. So essentially, how duels work in Cursed Kingdom are that players will, in the final version of the game, simultaneously, but for now, take turns using their movement cards as attack values that they will use to attack their opponents. The gist of it is, whoever has the highest attack value will win the duel. How do you do this? Simply the same way that you do it during movement phase. I'll select my card that I want to use, and at any point I can see what card I'm using and I can deselect it if I don't like it, or if there are certain cases where you can select multiple cards, I can click the deselect button here to deselect all of them. Now, in this case, I'm going to be using my highest value, but it's not always something that you may want to do. We'll talk about strategy later. As you can tell, there's a second section over here, and that is for duel support cards, which we'll talk about in a bit. Once I click confirm though, it'll be player 2's turn if we're playing in a local setting. Now, if this were online or against the computer, then player 2 would automatically select their cards at the same time that I did. But here, we're just going to select the 5 card just for an example. So I'm going to confirm, and we're going to see if any player used support cards, which no one did. But we get a nice little animation of the cards dropping in that you've used, and no one knows what cards have been used yet. So now we're going to see who used what. The warrior used the 8, and the thief used the 5. And as you can see here, the warrior wins with a value of 8. When winning a duel, you'll go back to the board, your turn will complete, and you'll resolve your space effects. If you noticed, the thief actually lost 1 health, so because of the duel. So he lost the health the moment the duel ended. The warrior, on the other hand, after the duel ended, sadly the space that he landed on also made him lose health. So that's the general idea of what the duel system is like and how it'll play out. Very quick, very fast, and you can have up to 4 players engaged in a duel as long as all those players are within 3 spaces of one another. So we're back in the duel scenario here, and this time I'm going to show you what happens when you use a support card and how you can use support cards to help you in a duel. Usually you can only use 1 support card per turn, so you got to be careful whether or not you want to use your support card during the movement phase, or you want to save it till the duel phase if you know you're going to duel someone. Now the thief in this case, it's not their turn, so they are able to use a support card due to the fact that there's no way they could have used one unless they negated a card or something with a reaction card or a special support card earlier in the turn. Here I'm going to be using the arcane staff, which increases the value of our movement card's attack value by 2 for this duel. So normally this is a 5 value card. It will now turn into a 7, and that is going to be showcased here because I'm using a custom deck here to showcase that the thief also selected 5 but did not use a support card. You'll notice support cards get resolved first, and it flipped right there to let them know whatever card the warrior has will be boosted by 2. The thief's a little worried. He sees the 5. Now he sees his 5. He's like, oh no, I'm in trouble. As you can see, the warrior celebrated a little bit while the thief was a little sad there. And that's because the warrior wins the duel once again. This time, as you can see, the thief took 1 damage. But again, the warrior is in a bit of a predicament here. He's now afflicted with poison for a turn. And that's some of the dangers you have to worry about. What's going to happen after the duel? Maybe you want to save your cards, save your support cards. If I had a support card like a gas mask that could have stopped and prevented that poison, then I could have used it. But in this case, because I used a support card as the warrior during the duel phase, I'm not able to use a support card after the fact. Now, speaking of the opportunity to use the same cards, what if all players in the duel select the same card value by the end of the duel? Well, let's check it out. With the warrior, I selected the 5 card, and with the thief, I'm also selecting the 5 card. As you can see here, no one used support cards, so we're not going to use any of those. However, we're going to see here shortly that both players have used the value of 5. When this happens, if at least 2 players have the same highest value, the duel is a tie and all players will take 1 damage. Now the damage may change based on certain factors, but in this case both players just took 1 damage. So you got to be careful here. Even if you're the loser on the duel, if at least the top 2 players tie, then you will all take 1 damage. So one other thing I would like to talk about concerning duels is maybe you don't want to duel people. Maybe you're worried about your resources and you don't have enough movement cards when it's not your turn, you know you're low on them, and you want to avoid duels. Well, that's where these special spaces such as the barracks here come into play. When you're looking at what your space effects are, you'll notice that some here say that players on this space cannot partake in a duel. The barracks is a perfect example of this. Now, this means that even though the thief is 3 spaces away from me, I'm unable to engage in a duel with them, and if the thief or any other character for that matter were in range to duel me, I'm unable to be dueled as the warrior while I'm on this space. I'm essentially safe from any type of duel. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't be attacked in other ways, but as far as duels are concerned, you are safe while you're on those spaces. So we've already gone over different types of support cards, such as ones that can only be used in a duel, as I showed with the arcane staff earlier. We have other things like the rusty sword and also the dagger of death here. Now, some of these obviously increase your movement card's attack value by a higher amount. In this case, it's 3, but there are drawbacks to these more powerful support cards, which you have to read. In this case, you will be cursed during the next turn after using this support card. So you gotta weigh it. Do I want to win the duel now, but then I'll be cursed later, and that could affect me later if people try to get a counterattack on me or get revenge on me? You gotta weigh those options, and it's just something you'll have to worry about, especially late game. It'll be very important. And yeah, guys, that's essentially the foundation of our duel system in Cursed Kingdom that we've been working hard on for pretty much the past few months. It has been a long trek to get to this point, but as you can tell, there's a lot of polish left. There's a lot of other things that we need to work on concerning it with the flow and whether or not we want to add like speed up functions or things like that, as it's going to be something that you are interacting with consistently throughout the game, you and your opponents. And there may be times where only 2 people are dueling. We don't want the players to just sit there not doing anything. So there are a lot of concerns that we have, and we're trying to address them before getting to a finalized version of the duel system. But there's also a lot of layers to it, which I love. There are support cards that affect you or your opponents. They can hinder your opponents, help you. There are dual sworded effects, essentially, or double-edged sworded effects, which can help you but then hurt you later. There are things that happen after the duel. There are abilities you got to take into consideration, like when you can use multiple support cards or movement cards, and that might turn the tables. So there are a lot of things you got to take into consideration when you're interacting with this duel system, and we can't wait to see what players figure out, what strategies they come up with, and all these different things that'll happen once the game's released. So we're really excited to show this to you guys, and if you have any feedback for it, let us know in the comments down below. But I think with that being said, that's pretty much all I have for today. I know there is a lot of questions you guys probably have, like when is Cursed Kingdom coming out? Well, we are hoping to share a release window sooner than later, but I can't promise anything right now. I know that there's been a lot of delays and things where we've just been quiet, but I assure you we have been working on the game pretty dang hard, and I can't wait to show you guys more. But with that being said, I've been RZ over here at Bukugames working on Cursed Kingdom, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next devlog. Remember guys, if it's not fun, it's not worth it. I'll catch you guys in the next one.